Oh, man. I got to tell you, if you're still defending her, I don't get it. Does she have pictures of you? Compromising pictures at this point? Inquiring minds would love to know. I think it's 2 games in a row that they just collapsed in the third. This is coming off of getting beat by a dog shit. Stephanie White blew a lead in the third quarter. How many games is that this season? 5, 8, 10?
The Indiana Fever just lost again. And fans can't stop asking, why is Chloe Bibby, the one player who consistently comes in and drains shots, getting 0 minutes? You heard that right. 0 minutes. When everyone's watching the playoffs slip away, how does the coach justify keeping a proven scorer on the bench? Stick around, because Stephanie White's explanation might shock you even more than the decision itself. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Chloe Bibby went from being that instant spark, the player you could throw in to flip momentum, to not touching the floor at all.
I'm sorry for you Stephanie White truthers. This team has a ton of talent. Even with Caitlin Clark out, right here, she gets a steal, takes another direction. Odyssey Sims. Odyssey showed a little something tonight. She did with the layup. Let's start with something that might at least make you smile. This was Sophie Cunningham coming into the game. This was the highlight of the game. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. This was the highlight of the game.
0 minutes. And this wasn't in some garbage time blowout either. This was in a game where Indiana's offense looked stuck in mud. The shots weren't falling, the ball movement slowed down, and you had a shooter who has proven she can stretch the floor just sitting there. If you're a fan, that doesn't just feel confusing. It feels like you're watching the team beat itself. Now think about what Bibby actually brings when she's out there. She's not someone hunting for 20 shots a night, but in short bursts, she's been shockingly efficient. Per minute, she hits threes at a solid clip, she hustles back on defense, and she creates more spacing simply by standing behind the line because defenders know she isn't shy about shooting. That alone changes how teams defend the Fever. When the offense is stalling, you need someone who can slide into a spot, catch and shoot, and suddenly give players like Caitlin Clark more driving room. That's what she does, and that's why her absence raised eyebrows. Then came the explanation. Coach Stephanie White talked about matchups, about needing players who could switch more on defense. Okay, fine, but here's the issue. The Fever weren't losing because their switching defense failed, they were losing because they couldn't score. And when you're getting outscored possession after possession, does it make sense to bench one of your best floor spacers?
This team has a ton of talent. You don't go 10-8 at home. If you're a real... Seriously? You see good teams 11-3, 17-2. You've got to dominate at home. Oh, Sophie Cunningham tonight, folks. Right here. She grabs the steal. She gonna drive it down, pull up, takes a step back, knocks it down, boom.
It felt like the reasoning didn't line up with what the actual game demanded. Offense was the crisis, yet the offensive spark was ignored. You don't even have to go that far back to find moments where Bibby completely changed a game. There were stretches this season where Indiana looked dead flat, and then she checked in, knocked down a corner three, fought for a rebound, sprinted the floor, and suddenly energy returned. Once, she hit back-to-back threes in less than 3 minutes, and the entire vibe of the arena shifted. Those short bursts might not make national headlines, but for a team clawing for playoff positioning, those are the exact kind of runs that matter. That's why people were so stunned she didn't even get a look. fans weren't quiet about it either. Social media lit up with posts asking why she was glued to the bench. People pointed out clips of games where she gave Indiana instant lift. Comment sections were filled with words like confusing and wasteful, and the anger only doubled when people remembered where the team sits in the playoff race. One bad loss swings them from comfortable to shaky, and that kind of razor-thin margin makes every rotation, every minute allocation even more important. Fans know that, so when the coach seems to ignore a scoring weapon, the frustration multiplies. Look at the standings, and it gets clear real fast. Drop 1 or 2 games this late in the season, and you aren't just sliding a spot, you might be staring at elimination. That pressure is heavy. That's why every substitution matters. That's why every coach's decision gets dissected. Bibby being benched wasn't just about one player sitting, it was about the ripple effect it has on the team's chances of holding on to a postseason berth. And when the playoff margin is this thin, the decision looked like the opposite of what Indiana needed. And here's the contradiction fans keep pointing out. If the Fever are as stacked with talent as White suggests, then why does the offense look completely gassed without certain bench pieces? Depth only matters if you use it. It makes no sense to rave about weapons at your disposal and then refuse to deploy them in the moments that matter most. Saying rotations are about matchups might work in theory, but in reality, people saw an offense starving for points while a capable shooter went unused. That's why White's justification feels so thin now. It isn't adding up. The numbers don't support it, the eye test doesn't support it, and the overall performance of the team doesn't support it. Fans were left with excuses, not answers, and that's why the tension keeps building. But the point isn't only about Bibby logging 0. The bigger message here is that coaching philosophy and player impact aren't aligned. The benching exposed more than a one-night decision. It showed cracks in leadership and how in-game choices don't reflect what the team actually needs. And that disconnect may be the single biggest obstacle in Indiana's way. So if the decision to bench her doesn't stand up under scrutiny, the real question now is what happens if the right pieces finally get used the right way? What transformation could a smarter rotation bring to the Fever season going forward? Chloe Bibby sitting out wasn't just about one night. It showed how leadership and vision don't match the pieces on this roster. The Fever clearly have talent, but decisions like this make it feel wasted. When a shooter who can stretch the floor is ignored while the team struggles to score, it raises serious questions about direction. So I'll throw it to you. Can Indiana actually recover if scorers keep getting buried on the bench? Or does this point to change being the only way forward? Because right now, with playoffs slipping fast, these choices are destroying momentum and trust.